Valentine's Day is supposed to be about love, flowers, chocolate, kids drawing hearts for their moms. But at 11:17 p.m. on Valentine's Day, 2024, a 26-year-old mother of two was lying in a Sacramento shopping center parking lot with a bullet in her body. Her two kids, 8-year-old Zione and 6-year-old Princella, are home waiting for their mom to walk back through the door. She never does. She hadn't been robbed. She hadn't been in the wrong place at the wrong time. She had been lured there by someone who knew exactly what he was going to do. And the most disturbing part? He had already told people he would do it, long before he got the chance. And here's the part that's going to stay with you long after this video ends. This was not a moment of rage. This was not a snap decision. This was not a crime of passion. This was a promise he made and kept. The question isn't what happened in that parking lot. The question is, how many people saw it coming and said nothing? Welcome to Viral True Crime Stories, where we share true crime stories based on real events that deserve to be told. Kindly support us by subscribing to this channel and turn on the notification bell icon so you never miss a new story. Before we go any further, I need you to understand who Chasity Rose Sparkman actually was. Because true crime has this habit, this really troubling habit, of turning real people into case numbers, of reducing a whole life down to the worst thing that ever happened to it. I refuse to do that to Chasity.
What you got up under this? Like, you just snatched it off on camera like
I showed it!
and don't give a fuck.
And I'm putting this shit right back on.
Oh.
See, she was born in Sacramento, California in July 1997. And from the very beginning, her family knew she was built differently. Her father, Alonzo Sparkman, a man who by his own account had 20 children, said Chasity was the one who was always blowing his phone up. Every day, not because she needed something, just because that's who she was. Present, loud, alive in a way that was impossible to ignore. Her family called her a firecracker, and that word keeps coming up over and over from every single person who knew her. She had this directness about her, said exactly what she felt, no filter, no performance. You always knew where you stood with Chasity. She didn't have time for pretending. She grew up in a large household, and somewhere in the noise of that big family, she became the one who held everyone together, the peacemaker.
Who's the meanest? Most likely to get into a fight? Most emotional? Most likely to do weird things in public? Most likely to get pregnant after a one-night stand? Who catches feelings quickest?
The one who made sure nobody felt invisible, and then she became a mother. Zione, 8 years old. Princella, 6 years old. I need you to hold those names in your head because they are the most important part of this entire story. Every decision Chasity made, the college enrollment, the job, the music she was building on the side, all of it traced back to those two kids. She was a student at Sacramento City College, working toward her degree. Her family said she was excited about graduating. Her father described it as her proudest moment. A young woman who had seen hard times and decided to climb anyway, slowly, intentionally, with two kids on her hip. 3 days before she was killed, Chasity made her last public post on social media. She wrote about wanting peace, about surrounding herself with positive women, and women who were further along, who could teach her something. She was talking about a new chapter, a cleaner, calmer version of her life. She was 26 years old. She had everything in front of her. What she did not know was that someone had already decided her story was over. I want to stop here for just a second. Chasity posted about wanting peace 3 days before she was murdered. She was trying to walk away from conflict. She was actively choosing better. If you have a woman in your life right now, a sister, a friend, a cousin, who is in a relationship with a man who has made threats, who has a record, who has put his hands on her even once, and you think she'll be fine, this channel exists because of people like Chasity. Subscribe to Viral True Crime Stories, not for the views. Because the next case I cover might be a situation you recognize. And knowing the signs, really knowing them, might be the difference between a phone call and a funeral. Hit that subscribe button right now. I'll wait.
What she say, yeah. Got this nigga on my line trying to get some time. I ain't fucking with no nigga that ain't splitting nine. Really on my grind, yeah, bitch, it's fine time. Bitches running up on me, she gon' eat these hands.
Now let's talk about Isaiah James, because this is where the story stops being sad and starts being something else entirely. Isaiah James and Chassity Sparkman went back to elementary school together. Not high school, elementary school. These two people had known each other their entire lives. They made their relationship official around 2013 as teenagers at Monterey Trail High School. And on the surface, the photos looked good. Family outings, matching energy, a young couple building something together. But here is what the photos didn't show. Isaiah had a documented history with law enforcement, run-ins that started early and kept coming. He also had a previous baby mother, and that dynamic was, to put it plainly, a mess. Jealousy, online arguments, accusations flying back and forth. And right in the middle of all of it was Chassity, trying to hold her relationship together while navigating someone else's drama that kept finding its way to her door. In January 2017, Chassity posted on Facebook about what it was really like living with Isaiah, and I'm going to paraphrase because her words are important. She basically said, living with this man is irritating, but she loved him. She said she'd be darned if she let love blind her with stupidity. She basically told him, in public, to get it together. That post is telling, because she already saw it in 2017. She already knew something was off, and she still stayed, because she loved him, and because they had a child together, and because sometimes love and clear judgment don't operate in the same room at the same time.
Live cheese on?
Yes.
People still like me. This would be weakness. Orange. You're gummy berries. Orange. You're the type of person who put up 2 parking spots.
Go ahead, pour it in.
The one that's painted on the ground are not for decoration. They're there for a reason.
In March 2019, Chassity posted a photo of a meal she cooked for Isaiah with the caption, "That's what a wife does." She was proud of her role. She was committed. She was all in. But around this same time, Isaiah got incarcerated. I want to pause here because what happens inside a relationship when one person goes to prison is something forensic researchers have studied extensively. They call it the jailhouse romance dynamic, and it creates a very specific kind of trap. When someone is incarcerated, the relationship exists in a controlled bubble. Letters, phone calls, prison visits. The incarcerated person has nothing but time to think about you, to say the right things, to be the version of themselves that you fell in love with. And the person on the outside starts to believe in a version of their partner that only exists because the circumstances made space for it.
Oh, nobody.
But I just got another earpiece. I came up here.
They can't even hear you guys.
Scheduled for you and Tommy. His floor can't get noticed.
They can't even hear you.
In September 2019, despite Isaiah being behind bars, Chassity married him. Let that sink in. She married him while he was in prison. I'm not here to judge that. Love doesn't follow a logical timeline. She had years of history with this man. She had his children. She believed in who she thought he was becoming. From the outside looking in, it made a kind of painful sense. But barely a month after the wedding, something shifted. Chassity started a relationship with someone new. His name was Isaiah Frazier. And yes, that's right, another Isaiah. He went by the nickname AZ Clicko, and he was also incarcerated. By October 2020, she was posting publicly about their 1-year anniversary. So now we have a picture that's getting complicated fast. Chasity is legally married to Isaiah James, who is in prison. She is romantically involved with Isaiah Frazier, who is also in prison. She is raising 2 kids. She is working. She is going to school. And somewhere in New York, Isaiah James is making phone calls. Okay, here's where it gets really uncomfortable. Because what happened next isn't a mystery. It was documented in real time, in recorded jail phone calls that left nothing to the imagination. Isaiah James, calling from behind bars, started systematically accusing Chassity of abandoning him, of moving on, of disrespecting their marriage. In call after call, there's a pattern. He doesn't take responsibility for anything. He flips every accusation back onto her. And when she pushes back, because she always pushes back, because she's Chasity, he escalates. Think about that dynamic for a second. He is calling her from a jail cell. He physically cannot be there. And yet somehow she is still the one being interrogated, still the one defending herself, still the one being made to feel like she owes him something. But here's where it gets really uncomfortable. There is a clip from an earlier period in their relationship, before the incarceration, where you can hear Isaiah say, in the middle of an argument, completely casually, "I will kill us right now." He said it out loud, on video, to the woman he claimed to love. Now, you could argue that was heat of the moment. People say things in arguments they don't mean. I understand that argument, maybe. But here's what I want you to understand. When a man says those words, even once, even in anger, and nothing happens afterward, no consequence, no real conversation about it, it teaches him the words are allowed, that they carry no weight, that he can say it again. And eventually, "I will kill us" stops being an expression. It becomes a plan. Stay with me, because I know we are minutes in, and some of you are probably thinking you already know where this story's going. You don't. The part that nobody talks about in this case, the part that every news report glossed over completely, is coming up in the next few minutes. And if you click off right now, well, you are going to miss the one detail that changes everything you think you know about what happened in that parking lot.
Please! No!
Meanwhile, Chasity was making posts that told a completely different story about where her head was. She was debating out loud on social media whether she should even take her kids to visit their father in prison. She wrote something that basically said, "I don't even want to deal with him because he's going to spend the whole visit trying to talk to me instead of his kids." She was pulling away, slowly, methodically, the way you do when you've decided you're done, but you're not quite sure how to get all the way out. And here's the part that every person watching this needs to understand right now. The most dangerous moment in an abusive relationship is not when things are at their worst. It's when the victim starts to leave. That's when the statistics change. That's when the lethality goes through the roof. Because for a man like Isaiah James, Chasity deciding she was done wasn't freedom. It was a threat to his control. I know some of you watching this right now are in relationships where things have been said that shouldn't have been said, where lines have been crossed and then explained away, where you've told yourself it's not that serious. Chasity told herself that too. If this story is making you uncomfortable, good, it should. Subscribe to this channel, because we don't just tell these stories for entertainment. We tell them so that you know what warning signs actually look like in real life. Not in a pamphlet, not in a hotline poster, in real posts, real calls, real moments just like these. And if you're the person who still won't subscribe, I genuinely want to know why. Drop it in the comments. What would it take? Because I don't understand watching a story like this and deciding it's not worth hitting a button for. Tell me in the comments. I'm serious.
What's up, money? You got a problem? What you looking at my ass for? Nah, yo, hold my poodle. Hold my poodle. Hey, yo, what's up? Y'all got a problem? Y'all want some of this? You want some of this, punk? What? What, boy, what? I take the both of you.
By 2023, something had shifted in Chassity's world. Isaiah James had been released from prison, and the theoretical tension of a long-distance jailhouse marriage was now replaced by something much more volatile: proximity. They were no longer separated by prison walls and phone calls. He was out, and the marriage, which had been fraying quietly for years, was now deteriorating in real time, in the same city with 2 kids caught in the middle. What we know from family and community accounts is that Isaiah had moved on romantically. He was now involved with a 25-year-old woman named Iona Burgos. And Chasity, for her part, had been building her life in a new chapter: school, music, her kids, peace. So here's the situation you have. Two people who had known each other since childhood, who had 2 children together, who had a legal marriage, and they could not figure out how to coexist without it turning dangerous. Chasity was slipping away, and Isaiah James could feel it. Think about this from his perspective for a second, because understanding the psychology of the perpetrator is how we prevent the next one. He is watching the woman he claims to love build a life without him. She is in school, she has a new direction, she posted publicly about wanting peace and positive women. Every single one of those things to a controlling man reads as rejection. And rejection, in the mind of an abuser, is not something to accept. It's something to punish. And the details of what exactly was said between them in the weeks leading up to February 14th, 2024, are not fully public. What the family has confirmed is this. Isaiah had made threats. He had told Chasity what he was going to do when he got the chance. He told her he would kill her. She knew the threat existed. And on February 14th, 2024, he made good on that promise. And I keep coming back to that, not to blame her, never to blame her, but to understand what it means about the level of psychological manipulation already in play. When someone has known you since you were a child, when they are the father of your children, when there is 20 years of history tangled up in every conversation, walking away from that, even when the threat is real, is not as simple as it sounds from the outside looking in. February 14th started like any other day for Chassity Sparkman. She had her 2 kids with her. She was present. She was their mom in the way she always was, fully, loudly, completely. But somewhere in the course of that day, Isaiah James found her. According to Chassity's cousin, Vanessa Renee Adams, who spoke directly to local media, the night started with physical violence. Isaiah James confronted Chasity earlier that evening. He beat her. Vanessa described it, plainly and without sugarcoating, as him beating her like she was a dude. She survived that encounter. And then, this is the part that I want you to really sit with. He called her after the beating. He called her on the phone, and he was calm enough to have a conversation. Calm enough to suggest they meet. Calm enough to say the words, "Let's just talk," and make it sound reasonable. Forensic psychologists and domestic violence researchers have a specific term for this, the lure. It is one of the most reliable predictors of intimate partner homicide. The abuser uses the existing trust, the shared history, the children, the love that never fully dissolved, as the instrument that brings the victim within reach one final time. Chasity agreed to meet him. Maybe she was scared of what he would do if she said no. Maybe she genuinely believed the conversation would calm things down. Maybe 20 years of knowing this man told her she could handle it. She drove to Lake Crest Village Shopping Center on Florin Road in Sacramento's Pocket neighborhood. Around 11 p.m. she arrived. Isaiah was already there, and he was not alone. Iona Burgos, his girlfriend, was standing right beside him in that parking lot on Valentine's Day when his estranged wife pulled in. We don't know exactly what was said in those final moments. We don't know if there was an argument. We don't know if Chasity had any idea Iona would be there. What we know is what the timeline tells us. At 11:15 p.m. gunshots reported near Florin Road and Greenhaven Drive. At 11:17 p.m. Sacramento police and fire department units arrive on scene. They find Chassity Sparkman in the parking lot. She has been shot, at least one gunshot wound. She is still alive. They rush her to a regional medical facility. Shortly after midnight, Chasity Rose Sparkman is pronounced dead, 26 years old, mother of 2, student, firecracker, musician, gone. And Isaiah James and Iona Burgos were already driving away from Sacramento.
Late night shooting in a shopping center parking lot. A woman is killed, and days later, the shooter is still on the run. The family of the mother killed last week in the Pocket neighborhood is pleading with whoever is responsible to turn themselves in.
Yeah, her family says the victim is a 26-year-old loving mother of 2 young children. ABC 10's Roxanne Elias has their emotional plea for help.
A slew.
She went to meet him because she thought talking would help. She thought being the reasonable one would keep things from getting worse. She thought she knew him well enough to trust that conversation. She was wrong. There are women watching this right now who are in relationships with men they think they know. Men who have shown moments of violence and then explain them away. Men who call after the storm and sound exactly like the person you fell in love with. Subscribe to Viral True Crime Stories because we cover every case at this level of depth. The exact psychological patterns that show up in almost every one of these stories. Patterns that can be recognized, named, and interrupted before they reach a parking lot at 11:17 p.m.
Who spends the most money? Who will have kids first? Who will get married first? Who has the better style? Who is meaner? Who is
In
more
the immediate aftermath of the shooting, Sacramento police withheld details about the victim and suspects. Standard protocol when suspects are believed to be in flight. But that silence felt like abandonment to the people who loved Chasity. Her father, Alonzo Sparkman, took matters into his own hands. He went on Facebook and named them directly. Isaiah James, Iona Burgos. He wrote that they took a part of me away from me and my grandchildren. He asked the entire community to repost, to share, to call it in if they saw either of them. His daughter was dead, her killer was free, and he was a father trying to use the only tool he had left.
Okay, you look just like me. Me and my son. Look good over here. I raised them right.
Community activist Barry Ashes, a voice of the youth, stepped forward and said out loud what a lot of people were feeling privately, that the response felt slow, that a young black mother had been murdered in broad community view in a busy shopping center, and the silence in the days that followed was not acceptable. On February 21st, exactly 1 week after the murder, more than 100 people gathered at Lake Crest Village Shopping Center, the exact same parking lot where Chasity died. They wore pink. They brought heart-shaped balloons. They said her name over and over. One after another, people stood up and talked about who she was, not what happened to her, who she was. She was nothing but joy. She never missed saying I love you when she left. More than life itself, Chasity loved her children. Her children were her world. Her sister said something at the vigil that I have not been able to stop thinking about since I read it. She said Chasity was the kind of person who would argue with you one day and call you the very next morning to say, I don't care that you're mad at me. What are you doing?
More than life
That's
itself, Chasity loved her children. Her children was her world. Everything Chasity did was for her kids.
Families say Spark.
She loved her family. She was very family oriented. If you know my sister, you know you guys could argue one day and she's going to call you the next and say, I don't care about you being mad, girl. What you doing?
After the shooting, Isaiah James and Iona Burgos disappeared from Sacramento. They did not stay in California. They traveled approximately 2,800 miles east to New York City. Think about what that flight required. Money, a plan, connections, people willing to shelter you. This was not a panicked sprint into the dark. And this involved at minimum a working knowledge of how to move quickly and quietly across the country after committing a murder. The moment investigators determined the suspects had crossed state lines, the Federal Bureau of Investigation got involved. Under the Fugitive Felon Act, interstate flight after a felony triggers federal jurisdiction. And suddenly you are not just running from the Sacramento Police Department. You are running from a federal apparatus with resources most people don't fully appreciate until they are on the wrong end of it. The investigation involved electronic communication tracking, financial record analysis, and almost certainly information from people within the suspect's own network. Most fugitives are caught not because investigators find them, but because someone who knows them makes a decision. For weeks, the family waited, the community waited, and then March 12th, 2024 arrived. Federal agents located Isaiah James and Iona Burgos in New York City. Both were taken into custody. Sacramento police confirmed both suspects were arrested with FBI assistance and faced extradition to Sacramento for homicide-related charges. March 12th, 2024. The same day as Chassity Sparkman's funeral. On the day they laid her to rest, he was in handcuffs. Her family described what happened when the children found out. Zione and Princella, 8 and 6 years old, jumped for joy. 8 and 6 years old, jumping for joy because the man who killed their mother could no longer reach them. Let that image land. Take a second, because it says everything about the kind of fear that had been living in that household. 2 children, 8 and 6, jumping for joy because their mother's killer was finally behind bars. That fear, that's what it looks like when violence gets that close to the smallest people in a family. It doesn't stay with the adults. It filters down. It gets into the kids. It lives in the house with them. I want to step away from the narrative for a moment and talk about what the research actually says about cases like this one. Because this is not just Chassity's story. It is a blueprint, and blueprints can be read. Forensic psychologists and domestic violence researchers have identified specific markers that appear consistently in intimate partner homicide cases. The Chassity Sparkman case checks almost every single one of them. Marker 1, a documented history of law enforcement contact. Isaiah James had that. Marker 2, verbal threats made during conflicts, even threats dismissed as heat of the moment. I will kill us right now. Isaiah said that. On camera. Marker 3, a triggering event that threatens the abuser's sense of control. Chasity moving on, building a new life, posting about wanting peace and positive women. To a controlling man, every one of those things reads as abandonment, as a personal attack, as something that requires a response. Marker 4, the separation assault, the beating that happened earlier that same night. Researchers call this the single most reliable predictor of lethal violence. When an abuser physically attacks a victim who is attempting to leave, the probability of fatal escalation increases dramatically. Marker 5, the lure, the calm phone call after the violence. Watch the reasonable-sounding invitation to come talk. This pattern shows up in case after case after case. The existing trust weaponized into the instrument that brings the victim within reach one final time. These markers are not invisible. They are learnable. They can be taught, they can be recognized, and they can be named in time to change the ending. That is why this channel exists.
Yeah, that's my best friend. Good morning.
Arrests in New York City, Isaiah James and Iona Burgos faced extradition back to California. Under the Uniform Criminal Extradition Act, the governor of California issued a formal demand to New York to return both suspects to Sacramento to face charges. The charges are homicide-related, and here is where the forensic legal analysis becomes critical. If prosecutors can establish that the phone call made after the initial beating was not a genuine attempt at reconciliation, but a deliberate strategy to lure Chassity to that parking lot, then what happened on Valentine's Day 2024 is not a crime of passion. It is first-degree murder, premeditated, deliberate, cold. In the presence of Iona Burgos raises its own questions that a jury will ultimately need to answer. Was she a bystander, or was she complicit, part of the strategy from the beginning? Under California law, under theories of conspiracy and aiding and abetting, you do not have to pull the trigger to be held equally responsible for what happens when it fires. As of the time this video was made, the case remains in the pretrial phase. The wheels of the judicial process move slowly, but they are moving. Justice for Chassity is not finished, but it is in motion. 3 days before Valentine's Day 2024, Chasity Rose Sparkman wrote her last public post. She was talking about peace, about choosing better people, about wanting to grow. She was 26 years old. She had 2 kids who thought she hung the moon. She had a degree she was chasing, a music career she was building, a future she was constructing one careful decision at a time. And then her phone rang, and she answered. Her children, Zione and Princella, are now being raised by their Aunt Dee, the person Chassity had already chosen for them, as if somewhere, in some quiet part of her, she knew she needed to have that plan in place. Her sister Nyana, when the first anniversary of Chassity's death approached, asked the family to skip the balloon release. Instead, she asked everyone to bring a single rose and leave it at the spot where Chassity died. Because Valentine's Day is about love, and Chassity's middle name was Rose. and she deserved every rose she never received that night. Each rose, Nayana said, would represent the ones her sister should have gotten that day. To Alonzo, to Nayana, to Aunt D, to everyone who loved Chasity Rose Sparkman, and to Zione and Princella, who will carry their mother with them for the rest of their lives. We see her. We say her name, Chasity Rose Sparkman. If this story moved you, and I hope it did, I want to ask you to do one thing before you close this video. Think about someone you know who might need to hear this. A friend, a sister, a cousin. Someone in a situation that looks a little bit like what we just described. Someone whose partner has made threats that everyone around them brushed off. Someone who is being lured back over and over by a phone call and a calm voice. Share this video with them. Don't overthink it. Don't add a long message. Just send it. Let the story do the work. And if you are not already subscribed to Viral True Crime Stories, this is the moment. Every case we cover gets this exact level of depth. The real forensics, real psychology, the warning signs that were present, but nobody gave them a name and time. Hit subscribe. Hit the bell so you never miss a story. Thanks for watching till the end, and until the next video, stay safe.